What a game. What a game. Arsenal have beaten Tottenham Hotspur in the North London derby by a massive 4-1. We're going to talk about the game, the hat-trick hero Eberechi Eze, and all the incidents from a magical night at the Emirates. We're also going to look at how that affects the Premier League table as results go our way over the weekend and ensure that we remain top of the Premier League. But with some interesting results around our rivals, we're then going to preview the big Champions League clash on Wednesday night as Arsenal have Bayern Munich visit the Emirates. These are the two top teams in Europe right now. So how will we fare and what can we expect from what should be a tasty encounter between two of Europe's big players? All of this and a joyous celebration to come on episode 30 of Red Lines and Half Spaces. Welcome to episode 30. Can you believe it? 30 episodes of Red Lines and Half Spaces. Where has the time gone? But what an episode to record. The North London Derby review. 2 days after, as we record this on a Tuesday, the gloriousness of an NLD victory of Arsenal 4. Tottenham 1. Again, I reiterate, Arsenal 4, Tottenham 1. What a victory. And there's no one better to celebrate this victory and discuss this beautiful match than with my co-host, Joe. Joe, you're obviously somewhere. I'm not going to say where, but you are external to the usual recording area that you occupy. How are you feeling, Joe? I mean, obviously we will go in depth, but how are you feeling now? You know, it's 2 days after the NLD. Are you still on that high? Are you basking in the victory and the adulation that comes when you win the North London Derby? And
I absolutely am, mate. But first of all, let's start with thanking you, Yem, for your hard work for these 30 episodes.
You as well, mate. Look,
don't interrupt me. This show is all Yem. I literally turn up, do some talking. But thank you to all the work you put in, mate. So the wheels are rolling, we're growing, and it's down to all your hard work. So thank you very much for everything you do, because you always thank me every week for coming on. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
The 2 days after the North London Derby were coming, I feel it's taken me 2 days just to really suck in all of the social media content, watch back the game, watch back the highlights on every different broadcast, hear all the different commentary of all the goals, listen to all the analysis. You have to take it all in. So, I mean, this is going to make it roll into 3 days for some people, because this will give people something to listen to on a Wednesday, where we're still talking about how much better we are than Tottenham. And it's not a surprise to some people, but my God, what a game, what a day it was, what a weekend it was. Yeah, it was absolutely sensational, mate. And I can't wait to talk about this, because it was one of the best derbies that I've kind of experienced for a while.
And we're going to talk about some of the elements that actually made it a really great derby, because the match itself was amazing. The scoreline tells you that. But Arsenal actually went above and beyond to actually, make it a bit more of an atmosphere. So let's share the slides. Bear with me 1 moment. If you're watching on YouTube, you will see the slides shortly. So if you are on YouTube, you will be able to see the slides come up. If you're not, we're just sharing some slides about the North London Derby. And last time out, it was Arsenal 4, Tottenham 1. What a scoreline. And obviously, I have to rub it in a little bit. If you are watching on YouTube, I've just flashed up the image of the Spurs end emptying the next to the clock end, and with the 4-1 scoreline on the scoreboard. There's nothing finer. Joe, the billing to this derby was obviously around Spurs' away record and Arsenal's draw with Sunderland, because obviously we work in a very, football is very much a short-term memory kind of environment where people only remember the last result. You're only as good as your last result, effectively. And obviously our last result was a 2-2 against Sunderland. But Joe, how did you feel going into this game? Were you at all worried? Were you concerned about Tottenham's away record and what they could do to Arsenal? Or was it a case that we should be too good for them? The Sunderland result was not so much a blip, but Sunderland got lucky with getting that last-minute goal, and really, we should have been better. We'd had come off 3 away trips, but this one, we're at home. It's a North London derby. We're going to stamp our authority and show actually what we can do. How are you feeling?
Yeah, so before the international break, I feel like we was just losing a bit of momentum. It just seemed that, not through sort of anything in particular, but that Sunderland game especially, it just seemed it was the end of a long week. So I think in that respect, the international break probably came at quite a good time for us because it gave a few players just a chance to just ease off a little, few friendlies, people play sort of hours and just take your foot off the gas slightly, which I think probably helped us. Going into the game, it's difficult to say, because coming back from international breaks, you never really know what sort of state the team's going to be in, what sort of state, like what people have got energy-wise and that sort of thing. I know Spurs would have the same, but it's always a bit of an unknown, isn't it, going into a game after an international fixture. I touched on it in the preview. I think the only thing that sort of aided us was the fact that it was a big game. So I think the fact that Spurs obviously had a lot of players away on internationals as well helped, because obviously the majority of our team were away on internationals. And another thing to throw in is the fact that it's a North London derby. These games are, although we are the better team and we've had great success in this fixture, it's always a game that throws up random moments. Crazy things happen. So I think you go into these games as confident as you can be, given all the other stuff that comes with a derby game. The only thing that really sort of I had any concerns about Spurs-wise was just the pace of their side. I thought that could cause us problems if they played on the transition. But I mean, we'll, I'm sure, talk about the Spurs performance at some point. But before the game kicked off, my only real concern was the pace they had, and arguably kind of the lack of pace that we had in the attacking areas. But other than that, mate, no, I wasn't concerned about the game, but you just always have that bit of nervous energy going into a London derby, I think, which is natural.
It is natural, isn't it? Because the derbies have never been true to form, if we call it that. Generally, they're kind of their own little microcosm of an event, almost like a battle within a battle, if you call it that. And certainly in the past, North London derbies have been fiery affairs, blood and guts, everything, and you kind of form goes out the window usually. But we're going to come to the game because I think that kind of turned on its head in this one, but we'll get your thoughts in a minute. But moving on, Joe, the talking point here, just to get this started, was something that we all were interested in because we talked about it before the game had started, and once we knew about it, which was the tifo that Arsenal were going to unveil for the North London derby. Now, Arsenal and tifos do not go well, because the last one that happened was at PSG, and that was a tragedy. Let's not call it what it is. That's a minor way to put it. But Joe, when they mentioned that they were doing a tifo and that it was fan-led, did you feel, look, that sounds a bit better, it's got some fan basis in it, it's going to be a little bit better than a corporate one? Look, the PSG one was, I think every Arsenal fan can acknowledge, and actually the whole football world acknowledged it was a poor attempt at a tifo, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think with things like this, they have to be fan-led. I think you need that sort of raw, natural emotion that goes into something like this. You can, like we saw, when Arsenal unveiled that it was going to do one for PSG, I think everyone probably thought, it's probably not going to be great if Arsenal were doing it off their own back on such short notice. And it showed, because it was terrible. It was just the idea was right to do a tifo for a big game, but the execution of it was appalling. And I think the club have acknowledged that. And this one, it was sensational, mate. It was absolutely fantastic. Massive shout out to whoever designed it. I think the guy is on Instagram, maybe. I don't think he's on Twitter, but it was absolutely brilliant.
How did you feel when you saw that it was Sol Campbell, right? Because there was inklings that, you have to do it. It had to be done, didn't it? But I didn't think Arsenal would allow it.
There was only ever one person who could be sort of the focal point of this tifo, and it was Sol Campbell. So absolutely brilliant touch. And what I think, is that this tifo, I know people will say, oh, it's only a tifo, whatever. but I think it really set the kind of the atmosphere for the fans before the game. I think when it was unveiled, I think a lot of people sort of went, wow. And a lot of people were impressed with it. I think it really kind of, I don't know about from where you were, but like from my end of the ground where
I
I
was
was
right
sitting.
behind. I was right behind it, so I only saw it from a back view.
Yeah, but so obviously I'm down the other end near the clock end, and looking at it, you could almost feel all the fans looking at it, go, wow, and you just really felt kind of the volume go up as that sort of lifted, and obviously the
How
pyro
did
was going off.
so talk to me about that, because you saw it as it kind of, they timed it really well, didn't they? They kind of pyroed it a little bit, and then it was like the smoke cleared, and then it came up, didn't it? Like very slowly. How was that in terms of as a spectacle? It must have been really amazing to see that.
Yeah, it was like I said, mate. It was so well executed. It was just a really, really well done. So shout out to Arsenal. Shout out to all the fans who are involved in it. I'm sure Red Action and other sort of groups like that had a big say in it. So massive shout out to them, because without them, things like this don't happen. But yeah, like I said, mate, sitting, obviously you had the sort of misfortune behind it, but for the rest of the stadium looking at it, just like I said, the pyro going off, North London forever ringing out, that raising up as the players walked out. It, like I said, the mood, the decibels, everything just went up a notch. And I think you saw Bukayo Saka really looking at it as he led the team out. And I think the players seeing it were impressed by it as well. And it made such a huge difference, I feel, to what was already a cracking atmosphere. And that really set the tone for the rest of the afternoon, I think.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that you wanted to set a tone for the rest of the game, because you wanted to be that kind of hostile atmosphere. That's what you wanted, and I think it set that. I think it did really well at the start. I will say that the atmosphere slightly died down when the injury happened. When there was a timeout for the injury, I thought that the atmosphere slightly died down, but it was a great work by Arsenal to get this to get this done, and big kudos to them. So Joe, let's talk about the lineups. So we already knew that going into the game that we had Gabriel out, and that was going to be the big talking point. But obviously the pre-match talk was about potential returns. Now, in the starting lineup, there really wasn't any potential returns. Obviously, on the bench, though, Madueke and Martinelli returned. So it was a little disappointing, wasn't it, Joe, to just, after all the build-up and all the hype that week, that we kind of didn't really get those big returns that we were looking for, were they? But the lineup was David Raya in goal, Timber, Saliba, Piero Nkapie starting. I'm going to get your thoughts on that in a minute. Ricardo Calafiori, Zubimendi, Rice, Saka, Eze, Trossard, Marino up front. For Tottenham, Vicario at the back three. Well, they went to a back five effectively. Udogi, Van der Ven, Romero, Danso, and Spence. Odegaard and Kudus with Palhinha and Bentancur, and Richarlison up front. And then, so Joe, what was your thoughts on the inclusion of Pierre Nkapie over all the other options? Because obviously he hasn't started in the Premier League, so it was a big game to put him in for, wasn't it? What was your feelings?
Yeah, so in our preview, mate, I said I wanted Nkapie to start, so I was actually really pleased to see him get the nod. Like I said, I just hadn't seen much of him play, but I just think from sort of my perspective, I love the idea of a left-footed centre-back on the left-hand side, right-footed player on the right-hand side. I just think it, in terms of passing lanes, how we build up from the back, all that sort of stuff, I think it all just lends itself to making us more efficient, providing us with more options. And this isn't, I know he's not played a lot, but this isn't sort of like a kid we're bringing in. He's a seasoned kind of pro. He's obviously a massive part of the Leverkusen team that did so well last year, Ecuador captain. So he's no mug. He's come in, and I didn't know what to expect. I thought he'd be solid. I thought he'd be aggressive, but he blew me away with his performance. I thought he's absolutely outstanding. As for the rest of the team as well, I think the lineup it's kind of what we all expected. One thing I would say though, yeah, is that Spurs team for me, when I saw that lineup, that just screamed fear to me from Spurs. Because if you look at that team, they was, other than Richarlison, Kudus, and Odegaard, the rest are all defensive players. So I knew they was going to play on the counter attack. But for me, straight away, I just looked at him and thought, there's no real attacking play there. They are literally look like they're parking the bus from minute one. And I think that as fans, we could probably tell that. And Arteta and the players definitely would have noticed that they'd sort of taken a more defensive view on the game. And that all that does, that gives you that extra sort of 5% just to really go at them from kickoff. Because they're not coming here to mix it up with us. They're coming here effectively already looking at a draw.
And I agree with you, Joe. I thought that I'm the same as you, Joe. When I saw that lineup and they were going to almost a back five, which it really was, Udogie didn't push up that much and Spence didn't either. I thought this, as you put it on occasion, teams step back from, take an extra 5 yards back when they see a certain lineup or a certain player start. I thought when I saw that for back five, I thought the Arsenal team will be going, yeah, we know what's going to happen here. We're going to step onto them and it's going to be much easier to work against that defence and to hold the ball. And that's pretty much what happened in the match. So let's discuss, Joe, the match itself. Match stats. Arsenal with 57% possession, Tottenham 43%. I don't think that tells the full story of it, but we'll get onto that in a minute. Expected goals, and I think this is actually wrong. Sorry, this is actually wrong. So I apologise to people who are watching on YouTube. Arsenal 1.93, expected goals for Tottenham 0.07 actually, so it's vastly wrong. So apologies for that. Total shots, Arsenal 17, Tottenham 3. Total shots on target 8, Tottenham 7. Why am I put 7? It's actually 0. I forgot it's 0 there. So sorry, apologies. Something's happened here with our technical workings on the slides. Big chances, 0 for Spurs, 3 for Arsenal. Accurate passes, 363 with an 81% conversion rate for Arsenal, 250 for Spurs with a 76% conversion rate. Corners, Arsenal 4, Tottenham 1. Joe, this doesn't tell the story of what was, and actually the 0.07 XG tells the story of a game there we pretty much dominated, didn't we? We absolutely dominated this game. We're going to go into the goals in a minute, but we dominated this game, didn't we? And I think Spurs were, for me, really negative. It didn't feel like an NLD showing. It felt like, as you said, they came very defensive and they were trying to play for the break, which never came. We just suffocated them. Now, yes, we could be very good, but I've seen Tottenham teams who are even worse than this come to the Emirates and put a performance in. This was the most abject I've seen for a long time. They were playing for long balls and for set pieces. It didn't feel like a team that wanted to compete really against us because they probably knew they would be outthought and outmuscled at every turn, didn't they, Joe? What did you think when you saw, you look at the stats and the game as a whole in terms of the play of Tottenham?
Like you said, mate, the stats don't tell the story. Tottenham were woeful. I mean, I genuinely could not believe how bad they were. The lack of ambition, the lack of fight in the game, the lack of kind of enthusiasm it appeared they had getting around the pitch. They just looked so poor. Initially, I kind of thought, are Arsenal just playing really well? But Arsenal played well, but I don't think we kind of were outstanding at any point. I don't think we got near to like our maximum level by any stretch of imagination. I just think Spurs were.
I agree.
Spurs were poor, and we played well. Really surprised by their performance. Like in that first half, it seemed that their only tactic was, like you said, kind of knock the ball around. They'd get a free kick, and Vicario would just lump it forward. We'd win the header and just come back on the attack. And it just seemed like that was the repeat for 45 minutes. We had some really nice moments. That kind of Eze sort of early in the game, little flick through to Rice. We should have done better, really. Hit it straight at Vicario. But we started well. My only kind of worry heading towards sort of half-time was that we didn't get the goals that we deserved, because we should, before the goals went in, I was thinking really should be 2 or 3-0 up by half-time in this game, because we've been all over them and we've got nothing to show for it. And that's a dangerous place to be. So I was really relieved when the goals did eventually come.
Come they did. So let's have a quick look. So the first goal, we keep talking about, we talked about it before, Joe, Leandro Trossard, you put it well, just keeps coming up with G's and A's, doesn't he? And again, another goal, looked really good. But it was a great ball from Marino, which and we've been a bit critical of Mikel Marino in some respects. But what a ball, and what a a great goal. There was a deflection on it, but you had to be. It was almost like Freddie Ljungberg, like the way he drifted in from the left into the centre and caused problems in a Spurs defence that should have been able to deal with it, but they couldn't. Make it. Van der Ven just struggling, wasn't he? Really?
Yeah. Are we going to talk specifically on players, or can I go on a little Merino loving right now?
You go with the Merino loving if you want. Yeah, go for it.
So I thought Mikel Merino in this game was absolutely sensational. I would have used an expletive, but I didn't want to give you more work to do. Genuinely,
Yes.
I thought he was outstanding. Before going into the game, I was worried about Merino because I thought his lack of mobility and the fact that he always kind of drops in deep would allow Van der Ven, Romero, and Danso quite an easy sort of day's work because they're three very mobile defenders. But Merino absolutely bullied all of them. I think he won every kind of ball that went up to him because Spurs pressed us because they knew we ideally want to play out the back. But all Raya done, he was clipping balls up. And Merino, he'd won, off the top of my head, I'd say at least 90% of the balls that were played up to him. Everything stuck. His link-up play throughout the game was outstanding. His work rate up top, the pressing, it was just brilliant, mate. And in this game, we really saw the best of Mikel Merino. And I think you probably saw the Mikel Merino that plays for Spain. He was outstanding, mate. And the ball for Trossard's goal was brilliant. It was such an excellent little ball. And the run, like you said, from Trossard was so Freddie-esque. It was like a throwing back to kind of 2002 and Ljungberg in his prime. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
But again, Trossard had an amazing game as well. I thought he was outstanding for all the kind of criticism we'd give him. Obviously, kind of laid on assists. He worked hard. The Spence Penitentiary was well and truly shut down at the weekend by Trossard. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. And that goal he got, little deflection off Van der Ven, which was obviously the bit of fortune we needed to get ahead in the game. But it was well deserved. And I think them two players deserve massive, massive credit for their performance because they were outstanding.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, again, Mikel Merino does divide opinion, but he's doing a job. And I thought he had a really good game, actually. As like you, Joe, I thought he was dropping off really well. He was positioning himself well. He wasn't trying to go directly up against them. Victor Gyökeres, I think, would have pressed against the defenders, but Mikel Merino was dropping off slightly. So the defenders didn't even know where to, if they had to come out to go to him. They were worried about it. And I think it was really highlighted in Match of the Day where they were talking about Brentford like to play this kind of overload the fullback areas to try and win the ball early. But what Mikel Merino was doing really well was doubling up that area. So it wasn't just Saka, it wasn't just Trossard, it was also Mikel Merino there. And that was kind of disrupting their kind of how they work because they thought, we'll get to Saka, he'll be 1-on-1 and then we can overload it with 3 or 2-on-1. But Mikel Merino was there as well to help out. And I thought he did it so intelligently. It was really well done. And I thought Trossard as well, again, he's not quick, but he's so clever in positions and he's so clever when he's running with the ball. He knows how to hold it up. He knows where to be. And that goal was just perfectly timed. But then, Joe, let's talk about the next goal. And we're going to talk about, obviously, all three in Infinitum, and there's a reason why. The next goal came just before half-time, and it came from... Who else could it be? Who else could it be but Eberechi Eze? I mean, again, the pre-season talk and all the noise leading up to his transfer that he was going to go to Spurs and Spurs wanted him and he wanted Spurs and there was no one else. And then obviously we got the high of the highs where the Ornstein bomber dropped and we signed him. But it was written, wasn't it? He's kind of he's writing his the perfect story as a Hale Ender and as a player that you join your boyhood club. You score against your former team, but then you go into the North London derby and you score what is a hat-trick. And if you haven't watched the game, then where have you been? I've told you, everyone knows what the score is and who scored. But to score a hat-trick in the North London derby is insane, isn't it? How could you imagine an even more perfect story, Joe?
No, this is fairy tale stuff. This is the sort of thing that if someone wrote a film with this happening, and let's just for argument's sake, say Arsenal go on to win the league, it's something that if it was in a film, you'd say that would happen. That's unbelievable. But It's happened in front of our very eyes. I mean, this kid got released from his boyhood club. It broke him. He openly sort of admitted that. Years later, he's got the chance to come back, scores his first sort of Premier League goal against his former club to win us the game 1-0. Goes into the North London derby. In the week, the opposition manager says, "Who's Eze?" tongue in cheek. Strolls out on the pitch, bangs in a hat trick. It's unreal, mate. And he said after the game, "This is what we prayed for." And it's the sort of thing that makes you kind of believe in religion, because it's the only real logical explanation for how something like this happens.
Oh, well, let's talk about the first goal, because it was a really well-worked manoeuvre. And again, I'm going to quote Match of the Day here. We didn't just try to drive into the space that Spurs produced. You saw William Saliba. I don't know if you've seen Match of the Day yourself, Joe, but William Saliba was constantly looking when to play the ball to Jurrien Timber to try and open up the space, because Spurs obviously were trying to overload. And he was trying to draw out one of the defenders at least to come and have a nibble at him and try to at least open up a little bit more space. But this was all about careful movement, wasn't it? It was not about speed or power. It was great movement, great passing, and then obviously the finish was superb, which Eze hanging around on that edge of that penalty area is a lethal area, isn't it? He's so good on either foot, isn't he? And that's where he specialises. He's not Martin Odegaard. We've said it on numerous occasions. Don't expect a Martin Odegaard replacement. He is a moments player, and he delivered the moments for the North London derby, and he did it superbly. That's what he is, isn't he, Joe?
Yeah, this is, like you said, there's been a lot of people saying, "Oh, Odegaard or Eze or Odegaard." Just enjoy both of them, because we've got two sensational players who can play in the number 10 role but play it completely differently. You've got Eze, who's all about picking the ball up, dribbling at players, beating his man, loves a shot from the edge of the box and is so clinical from there. You've got Odegaard, who's more of an orchestrator, who will just sort of float in and around that area. He will have a shot as well, not as clinical as Eze by any stretch, but he can pick a pass. They're both outstanding players. But in terms of Eze, he is exactly what this team was missing. The amount of time, GM, that we've seen the ball drop on the edge of the box in that sort of area where it kind of goes, and you'll just see players looking for passes or really clever little through balls that work 1 in 100. Eze is just, his first thought is, I'm in a position here where I can get a shot away. And the quick feet that he used to beat the two defenders, where he could have easily gone down and won us a penalty. But he said, "No, do you know what? I'm here. This is the North London derby. This is my moment." And he smashed that ball past Vicario. And it was a brilliant finish. And there was just so much power in it that the keeper couldn't get down quick enough. And it set the tempo for what was going to be an Eze masterclass.
And Joe, there's been a lot of talk about impeding, Trossard impeding the goalkeeper, and Joe Hart talked about it on Match of the Day too, that he impeded the goalkeeper. What's your view on it in terms of the goalkeeper was unsighted? He couldn't do anything about Eze's shot. Was it offside to you?
I mean, for me, this is where VAR is a shambles again, because you've seen goals disallowed for a lot less than that. I mean, in this goal, you could argue at one point he had about 3 players in front of him, all kind of within his eye line. And we've seen players who were kind of in a keeper's peripheral vision, not doing anything, and a goal be disallowed. So for me, I don't think these goals should be disallowed, because, I mean, they're not interfering with the ball for me. So if a player stood in an offside position, if he stood literally in the goalkeeper's face, literally a yard away, then absolutely. But in moments like that, I don't think goals should ever be disallowed, whether that's for Arsenal, whoever it's for. Goals shouldn't be disallowed in that sort of scenario for me. But VAR and the inconsistency means that one week it might be given, next week you'll see one that's similar won't be given. So it's hard to say, mate. For me personally, I wouldn't ever want to see a goal like that disallowed. And that would be if it's come from any team, not just Arsenal. But like I said, it just highlights how terrible VAR is and how decisions are made on a weekly basis rather than any real consistency.
Yeah, we've talked at length about VAR, the PGMOL, and the standards. It's so inconsistent that we don't know what's one day to the next. But Joe, the next goal came, and again, just after half-time. Half-time hadn't even gone. People weren't even in their seats. And then all of a sudden we got another Eze goal, literally almost from the kickoff. I think this one shocked him, didn't he? You look at the picture and he was like genuinely shocked to get that much space so quickly, wasn't he? But again, it was a lovely finish. He's so clean with his strikes. It's amazing. But I thought, again, when he got onto that right foot of his and he curled it through, I just thought, yeah, he's going to score here, because it was almost like time stopped a little bit for me when I was in the North Bank and I was watching it. And I was like, he's going to, an amazing goal, wasn't it, Joe?
Yeah, and again, it's the sort of the dream scenario. At half time, you're saying, right, 2-0, we all know as football fans, it's the most dangerous scoreline there is. We need to get the next goal, because if Spurs were to get the next goal, we thought they couldn't play as badly as they did in the second half as they did the first. We thought we was going to see a bit more from Spurs. So it's like, we need to come out here firing, get that goal. And I don't know if it played a part in it, Ian, but I noticed that Spurs came out for the second half very early. They were stood out on the pitch for a good few minutes before Arsenal came out. So I don't know if that contributed to it, because it seemed like they was half asleep for this goal. And the way it sort of, obviously, it kind of developed down the right-hand side, worked its way into Eze, and he finished it so cleanly. But the amount of space he had was unbelievable. And to give a player of his ability that much space is absolutely criminal. But he still finished it brilliantly on his weaker left foot, and the place went mad, didn't it? When that ball flew in, at that point, I think everyone thought, you know what? We can now relax and just enjoy what's going to be a glorious afternoon.
Well, yeah, you say that, we could relax, but then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Tottenham score of an interesting goal with Richarlison scoring from just behind the halfway line. Joe, this was a pretty bad combination of Zubimendi dropping, just losing the ball, and David Raya not being on his line, isn't it? This has just looked really silly, didn't it? Because it should never have happened. And Raya does have these moments sometimes, doesn't he? He's a great goalkeeper, but these don't help his cause when it's so easily done from such a long way out, isn't it?
Yeah. Equally, though, what I would argue is that this is the way that he's told to position himself. This is the way he's told to play by the manager, by the coaches. It's our setup. He acts as that kind of extra man in the defence when we're building up to allow space elsewhere on the pitch. So it's a risk that on this occasion hasn't cost us. It reminded me very much of the Spurs goal we conceded in pre-season when MLS gave it away, and it was almost identical goal.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say about this one is that, and you won't hear me say this again in this lifetime maybe, is it was a quality bit of finishing from Richarlison, because if that's an inch lower, Raya saves it, and if it's an inch higher, it hits the bar. So it was literally the only place he could have put that ball for it to go in. But the only thing I would sort of caveat that is that I don't think Richarlison has the ability to do that. I think it's more a case of he got fortunate with it. So, yeah, I mean, credit to him. It went in the back of the net. He got a bit lucky because he hasn't got the ability to really do that kind of thing. But, yeah, for the 10 minutes after that, it all got a bit nervy, didn't it? But we soon rectified that, and we was able to enjoy our afternoon.
And we were able to enjoy it because that man Eze again scored his hat-trick goal. Wow. Again, a lovely break, lovely bit of passing, and then Eze curling it into the box. He literally stopped. Van de Ven kept sweeping in, trying to tackle. He literally dummied it out of his way and then put his right foot and curled it into the far corner. Vicaria had no chance. It was, again, another beautiful finish. And Eze, 3 goals, 3 beautiful finishes. He's got that knack, hasn't he, of being able to score goals from that, from that penalty area, from just outside the box. He's got a real ability to finish well, hasn't he, Joe?
Yeah, he really has, mate. And what I loved most about this goal was the way he just sat Udogie down on his behind, dropped him on the floor. And then it's brilliant. When you watch the replays, you can see Udogie's face just drops as Eze opens it up. He whips it beyond Vicario. He just, it's that moment where you think, oh, God, I'm going to become a meme for the next week.
Because he flew in trying to get the ball, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to get the ball here." And then they obviously didn't, and he looked like such a mug, didn't he?
Yeah, he really did. But I mean, again, it's class from Eze. It's another brilliantly taken finish. And do you know what I loved, about all 3 finishes? There was no he didn't sort of caress the ball into the sort of the corners like we see a lot of our players do, sort of side foot finishes. All of these finishes were hit with power. He drove the ball into the back of the net with real sort of purpose each time. And I love seeing a ball like struck properly like that, because you just give the keeper no chance. And these are the kind of sort of positions, that I feel like the team have been working on since the start of the season. I feel like week by week you've seen kind of moments being engineered where Eze's getting this kind of space on the edge of the box. And I think week by week, you've seen more and more Eze kind of getting involved in moments and having kind of these opportunities in games. And it just so happened that it all clicked so beautifully against Spurs, who were, like we said, way, way, way below par. But it was like the perfect storm for us. It all that sort of the things we've been working on have all just worked beautifully for us on the most, arguably the most important game of the season for us so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a testament to that work that you put in, that we got the space and we got the goals that we deserved. As well, Joe, I want to shout out a few players, as you called out Mika Marino and Trossard. Declan Rice, I thought, had a superb game today. He was everywhere, driving, defending, the attitude as well. I think people caught his words, "We're going to kill him," as on social media. But I thought he had an excellent game as well. I thought he was really good. And again, he just continues to impress, doesn't he?
He was outstanding, mate. He almost could have sort of bang up against Paulinho and the other
Bentancur.
He literally ran all over them by himself. He was everywhere. When there was 50-50s to be won, he was there. When there was headers to be won, he was there. When they was kind of coming forward, he was breaking up play and then setting us on our way as well. It was one of those games where you saw why Declan Rice was a £100 million player, because he was just head and shoulders above everyone on the pitch in that kind of department. He really ran the midfield, and we're just so lucky to have him, mate, because what a difference he's making to this team.
And the other player I want to call out, who, although he didn't get a goal or assist or anything like that, was still influential, Bukayo Saka. 2 really well struck free kicks, which should have been goals, to be honest. They were so good. But again, he doesn't need to be on the score sheet or scoring goals to have an influence, does he? He was just there all the time, causing problems, receiving the ball, doing well, and showing us why he's so good. Receiving in tight spaces as well. I thought his tight space control and the pass, getting the passes off to Marino, to Zubimendi, Eze was so well worked in this game. He was so strong. I mean, there was obviously a number of tackles flying in on him, and I think the one on Xavi Simons on him, I don't know how Xavi Simons stayed on the pitch without, I thought it was a 2-footed one, but, you know, again, Michael Oliver, who was the referee, and that's always an interesting one, although it didn't need to be a problem this time, but I just thought he just controlled the game so well and was so involved in it. What did you make of Saka's performance, Joe?
Yeah, he was outstanding, mate. I think you've kind of summed it up brilliantly. He was brilliant without kind of getting sort of your G's and A's. And in years gone by, would Arsenal have had a 4-1 win without Bukayo Saka sort of being on the score sheet? Probably not. But it just highlights the strength and depth of this squad, mate, and how many options we now have. Trossard is on unbelievable form, but he's just a numbers man, like I keep saying. Eze's chipped in with a hat-trick. Unbelievable. Goals sort of from all over the pitch. And he's just making a real difference because it takes the burden off Saka. Yeah, if you want to go and double up Saka, fine. We'll just have Eze in acres of space instead. We'll have Trossard in space. It's not a problem for us anymore. Yeah, years gone by, Saka was the only kind of outlet ball we had, and everything went through him. But at the moment, we've got so many options, such variety in our play that we're really difficult to tie down. And you can't. The problem opposition have got now is you can't double up on Saka because you're leaving another quality player free somewhere else on the pitch. What I will say as well, while we're talking on the right-hand side, Yuri and Timber, again, what a player. He is just... Me and my brother were discussing this, mate, and we were saying he could potentially be in the... Well, not potentially, he is in the conversation for the best right-back this club's ever had. Definitely in my lifetime. Other notable mentions of people like...
that song. So me and Faisal... Yeah, me and Faisal had the same conversation. We were talking about, is he better than Lauren? I think if he wins a trophy, you have to say, yeah, he probably is in comparison. Because
me and my brother shout out to Lauren, Sanya, and Timber. And if Timber can get the biggest trophy, I think he propels himself to number one. Because what he does in possession, out of possession, is just unbelievable. And I would go as far to say, mate, he's our player of the year so far. Coming off the back of an ACL injury, he is just phenomenal. In attacking areas, I think you've really seen him go up a level this year. And defensively, he looks as strong as ever. Nobody is having any joy against him. And the link-up play now and the understanding between sort of Saka and Timber, it's almost starting to sort of look like a development, if you like, on the White and Saka relationship that was over on that side. It's really promising, and it's looking good, mate. And he's just what a player. I can't speak highly enough of him. I absolutely love him.
Yeah, I think he's been superb this season, and I hope it continues. Joe, great victory, but also it means 3 points, and that brings us to the Premier League table, which means we continue to stay top of the Premier League, but we are now 6 points clear of second place Chelsea, which is interesting. We're going to talk about them in a second. But Chelsea in second, Man City third, Aston Villa in fourth. After a shaky start, they're starting to come back now. Crystal Palace in fifth, Brighton and Hove Albion in sixth, Sunderland seventh, Bournemouth eighth, Tottenham dropping down to ninth, Man United, oh dear, we will discuss them in a second, in 10th, Liverpool, oh dear again, in 11th, Brentford 12th, Everton 13th. I think that's changed now. Actually, no, sorry, I forgot. Because of the last night's result, Everton are above Liverpool now and above, just behind Man United. And Newcastle 14th, 15th in Fulham, 16th Forest, 17th West Ham, Leeds 18th, Burnley 19th, and right at the bottom, Wolverhampton. Joe, obviously, this coming Sunday is the top two clashing. Did you think that Chelsea would be this high in the season, and do you think they will be in the title contention, do you think, in all honesty?
I'm not sure, mate. At the moment, I think that a lot of the teams behind us are all taking points off of each other, and no one's really showing the level of consistency that we are. I'll be honest, mate, I can't see the points tallies, but off the top of my head, I think the gap between, like, say, fourth down to about 14th is only a few points. And I think United proved it a few weeks ago that if you can win 2 games on the bounce, your league position really does change.
Yeah, you'll be.
So I think Chelsea, they've got some good players, probably similar to Spurs. They've got good players, better than Spurs, actually. Let's not insult them too much. But they've got some good players. They've got a good manager as well. It'll be a far more difficult game, I'd expect, than the Tottenham game. But again, it's a game that we're going into where I think we've got strength in depth, we've got options. Let's really go there and again believe in what this team are doing and what they're capable of. Because at the moment, we are flying. We are the best team in the league on current form, and whilst we're in this form, we just need to keep ticking along and keep really ratcheting up the pressure on all the teams behind us. Because again, yeah, we spoke about it before. What a glorious hate watch weekend it was for us. Not only did we get the North London Derby
And we're going to
win,
go into.
but wow, results really, really just went
So
our way, and it's
let's
everything
talk about
want.
but first of all, Joe. So we have got Chelsea this weekend, but Chelsea have to play Barcelona first in the Champions League. Do you think that's an effect? You know, obviously we play Bayern Munich at home tomorrow, and we're going to touch on the game in a second. But Chelsea playing Barcelona is a big one, isn't it? That's a much more intensive game than, you know, you would say for us, because Chelsea are at a different level, I think, personally. They've still got defensive issues. I don't think they're amazing by any stretch of the imagination. I watched the Burnley game and I thought Burnley, actually, if they had better strikers and better finishing, would have won that game, actually. But I think that for Chelsea, it's much more of a test against Barcelona than Bayern is for us. Would you say, Joe?
I think they're different tests. I think you could argue that Arsenal and Bayern are on form the best 2 teams in world football at the moment. Just going by results and what both teams are doing. Sorry, Chelsea, I would say, are sort of a level kind of below where we are currently. I don't really know what level this Barcelona team's at. I know they've been sort of a bit up and down over the last few years, various sort of players coming and going and whatnot. But they've got a difficult game. We've got a difficult game. I think there's no real benefit of us saying one's probably got it easier than the other, or vice versa, whatever it may be. But I think both teams have got difficult Champions League games. And again, you could argue maybe that the Bayern game for us will be sort of a more difficult game physically, but then maybe Chelsea will have sort of a harder game against Barcelona mentally. Because if Barcelona still play sort of in the Barcelona DNA, there'll be a lot of keep ball. There'll be a lot of sort of Chelsea kind of having to concentrate for 90 minutes as they pop the ball around. And I think it's just a different kind of game, mate. But both teams will have difficult games, and it should really lead into Sunday with both teams being on kind of an equal playing field going into the game in terms of what they've faced during the week.
Yeah. So, Joe, let's talk about some of the rivals. Man City losing to Newcastle away at St James's Park. I think this was. We had an inkling, didn't we, that this could happen. Obviously, Man City are a very good team, but Newcastle, I think, really did well in this game. They got, they were physical. They got back to what they know best, isn't it? Being physical and catching teams on the break. And I think, obviously, we know this season that City defensively are not what they were, and it was proven, wasn't it, in this game?
Yeah, I've only really caught the highlights of all the other games, mate. So if we want to go into real depth, I'll have to leave that to your expert eye. But from the highlights, it looked like it could have been a 4-4 game, to be honest. I mean, Harvey Barnes missed some sitters. I saw sort of Haaland had a chance where he sort of hit it straight at Pope. So plenty of chances for both teams. But Newcastle are a difficult game. But I mean, we saw that ourselves. We were up there and managed to get a really good win late on. But Newcastle will take points off of teams this year because they're a very good side. They've got a good team. Man City, we know, are kind of a bit up and down. They're not the City that kind of we're used to of years gone by. But Newcastle will take plenty of points off of kind of opposition teams, and I'd expect Newcastle to be a lot higher up the table than they are come the end of the season. But another brilliant result for us, mate. And it just proves how good our win was up there as well.
Yeah, massive, wasn't it? And then let's talk about Liverpool. Oh dear. 3-0. Forest beat them 3-0 at Anfield. Is this and this noise has started to come about slot out from Liverpool fans. Are there red flags starting to come out about Slot, do you think, Joe? Is this the downfall of Slot, or is it a case that this is a blip really and Newcastle and Liverpool will find their way through? Because 3-0 at Anfield has not, that's not been seen for a long time. Anfield's a fortress. It's very unusual, and obviously there are problems.
Could I claim, Yem, that there was part of me that semi-predicted this? Because I remember saying in the preview show that it could be detrimental to Liverpool that they're coming into the game against a good Forest side who wouldn't have had as many players away on international duty. So Forest come in arguably
you did say
legs. So could we argue that I might know what I'm talking about every once in a while? We'll let the listeners decide on that. But I think I think it's a blip, mate. It's hard to see that this was last year's champions. You don't turn into a bad team overnight. Last year's champions, they've spent 450 million. I don't know. I think they're too good to kind of be as bad as they're currently showing. I think it's more of a form issue than overriding kind of club in decline, players dropping off problem. I mean, Salah's a year older, Van Dijk's a year older. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I've not seen much of Liverpool, to be honest. I've watched the results come in from afar, and I think as long as their results are terrible, I'll keep not watching them because maybe me not watching them is contributing to this in some lovely alternative universe that we've got going on here.
Fair enough. So to keep avoiding watching the game.
They keep avoiding the points.
Man United. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. This one is even more shocking. At Old Trafford against Everton, down to 10 men because Everton's Idrissa Gueye slapped his own player up. And then they still lose 1-0 to Everton. You cannot write this. I don't know who's worse. Is it Tottenham or Man United? For me, Spurs are consistently bad. Man United are not far off, are they?
No, the only difference I'd say is that Man United have at least showed in a few games that they're capable of doing something. No, they went to a sort of they've had last month. Obviously, they had a few good results, didn't they? Spurs are a laughing stock at the moment. That's kind of how we like it. But neither team's kind of doing anything special. Last year, we saw what they was both about. Both really only sort of narrowly avoided relegation, which is tells you everything you need to know about where these two clubs are currently at. And United, they're, like we said, they flattered to deceive. They've had a few good results, but then going into a game you expect them to win, they just show their true colours again.
Yeah, absolutely. So an interesting weekend in the Premiership, and we're going to look forward to more Premier League action this week. We'll talk about it in our preview show. But on to the next game. Bayern Munich in the Champions League. This is a tasty one, isn't it, Joe? Because obviously, as you talked about previously, it is two of the most informed teams in the world right now going up against each other. Bayern Munich are absolutely dominating the Bundesliga, as per usual, because they have the most finances and they can get the best players. Arsenal, obviously, at the top of the Premier League. But how are you seeing this one, Joe? Because obviously, Bayern Munich come in great form, but they have lost Luis Diaz, who was one of their biggest players, and really has done massively well in the Bundesliga. But we've got injuries. They've got obviously quality throughout. Harry Kane is in the form of his life right now, being one of the top goal scorers in the world, blowing teams away. They've got Michael Olise, top player. They've got quality throughout their squad. How are you looking at this game? Is this a must-win for Arsenal, or are we in the position that we should be looking at the Chelsea game this weekend and thinking that's where we have to prioritise? How are you looking at this game, Joe?
I'm really excited for this, mate. I can't wait to get back to the Emirates to watch this one. I've been salivating over this game for weeks because I think it's going to be a really, really good game of football. Like I said, two of the form teams in world football at the moment, and I just think this is going to be a really cracking game of football, end to end. I think it would be a really, really exciting game. And for the neutral, I think they'll absolutely love this game. How I feel about it, for me personally, I'm placing more importance on the Chelsea result than I am this. I don't think we should prioritise one over the other because I think we've got the squad depth now to compete in both sort of competitions and go out and try and win these games. I mean, if you wanted to do a little bit of rotation for Bayern, you could bring MLS in for Calafiori. I don't think that's a big drop off. You might potentially look at bringing in, I don't know, Madueke was obviously on the bench at the weekend, Martinelli. Maybe you bring them in and sort of shuffle it about that way. But we've got the squad now, yeah, where we don't have to necessarily say, oh, we need to pick one or the other. We can go into both of these games and go, do you know what? We can put out a team that's capable of winning both of these games. And that's the mindset we've got to go in with. I think, like I said, the game on Wednesday night against Bayern, I'm just really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great game. And then the Chelsea one at the weekend, I think if we can really, go to the bridge and get a win there, what a week. If you gave me the two league wins and kind of flipped a coin on the Bayern result, I'd be absolutely fine with that because I think in the Champions League, we'll have enough to qualify. Once the Bayern game's out the way, I think we've got sort of Inter and then some fairly winnable games. So, like I said, I place more importance on the Chelsea result. For me, I think that's the one that if you said you can only win one of them, I'd go for the Chelsea win. But, like I said before, with the squad depth we've now got, we can go into both these games and say, here's the starting 11 that is capable of winning.
And that's what you want, that we've got the squad depth to cope with this Champions League. The problem is obviously how strong do you go for this game? Because obviously, as you said, we've got the Chelsea game at the weekend, and it is Bayern. You do want to be competitive, but how competitive do you want to be? Because where would you prioritise, Joe? Let's play the devil's advocate. Where would you prioritise, the Premier League or the Champions League? Where would you want to prioritise? Given this, if we had to
moment in time.
Yeah, this moment in time with the injuries, with the way the Premier League is, what would you do?
For me, mate, I prioritise the Chelsea game at the moment simply because I think that in the Champions League, we're all but there. We're all sort of nearly qualified for the next round. And I don't think that losing this game will have a massive effect on that. What about you? What do you think? Because, like I said, I just think Champions League, we're kind of there or thereabouts now. In the Premier League, I think that's where I really want to see us kind of putting nails in coffins and really just keep the hammer down.
Yeah, I would prioritise the Premier League at the moment because, look, this game is not going to it's not going to cost us our Champions League round of 16 place. We'll get through. I'm pretty confident we'll get through. We're already in the top three, and I think we'll do well. We'll be fine to get through because it's the top 25. Is it top 25 get through?
Yeah, well, it's 8 automatic, isn't it? And is it the next? I think 8 automatic, and then is it 16 go into the qualifier thing? So I think even if we were to lose this game, I'd still expect us to make that top 8. To be honest.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think, again, I would look at the Chelsea game more as as the one that I'd put my eggs into one basket. But as you said, we've got the squad to cope with it. So if we bring MLS for tomorrow, is that a drop off? No, not really. It really isn't. You know, and obviously we've got a few more players. You've got Martinelli. Madueke came back in the Tottenham game. I wouldn't have any issues with him starting because he was absolutely flying and he needs minutes. So I think we'll do well. I'm really interested tomorrow. Unfortunately, I'm not going because I've got a few bits and pieces going on. But like you, Joe, I am salivating. I know. Look, life gets in the way, and you know why. Obviously, why it's getting in the way.
Yes.
But it is
Justified, absolutely.
Yeah. But we're gonna we'll cover that. Hopefully a win in our post-match preview of the Chelsea game. But Joe, I think that's it. We can digest the North London derby win and continue to look at the content. I know you're going to go off and have a look at more content while you still salivate, but we're going to end it there. Thank you to everyone who's been listening.
Location, I am going to now sort of just
undisclosed secret location. Nod, wink, wink.
Disappear somewhere, just carry on with the content. I'm sure Jamie O'Hara's losing his mind somewhere. I'm sure sort of another fan channel somewhere's got something for me. I might rewatch Expressions losing his mind. So there's still plenty of content that I can feast on right up until kickoff tomorrow, mate.
Exactly, and that's the whole point. You can do it when you're going in. Even Bayern Munich are not going to put any content out that you're going to go, wow, that's
exactly.
That's content.
What I will say, just before you,
it keeps giving, doesn't it? It keeps giving.
Just before you finish us off with your catchphrase that I know you're going to get right for us this week, I would just like to say that it all works out.
It did all work out. Do you know we need the music, but unfortunately for copyright reasons we can't play it, obviously, because I'm not going to pay out for that. But Joe, we're going to end it there. Thank you so much for joining us from location undisclosed. If you are enjoying the content, please do consider subscribing to us on YouTube, on all the audio platforms. We're grateful to all of our supporters who are listening. Please do continue to support us and enjoy the channel. We really do appreciate it. But for now, Joe, we'll end it there. And here we go. Always stay between the lines and always find the half spaces. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.
Let's go!